and I realise that's something I say a lot. In any case, tonight we are doing a lemon and olive chicken tagine. It's a really typical Moroccan dish. Anybody that watched last week will already see that I've got a little bit of a love for Moroccan cooking. I've always enjoyed that sort of mix of kind of Mediterranean and sort of Middle Eastern flavours that Moroccan cooking gives, and it's something that I do a lot personally at home, but it kind of, I think, was kind of pushed to another level when we did a big trip around Morocco a few years ago, which you'll probably hear a little bit more about. I spoke a bit about it last week, but I'll chat a little bit more about it during the live. So we're going to crack on. It's a really easy dish. Now, I'm a great believer that when you cook, food doesn't have to be complicated to be tasty. And if you keep food simple, you're far more likely to make it yourself. And let's be honest, making food yourself is a really good way of staying healthy. So I've kind of pre-prepped a lot of my stuff tonight so that I'm not going to spend hours in the kitchen with you, otherwise you all might get a little bit bored. I've got chicken thighs. There are enough here I've got 8 pieces. It's enough here for 4 people. Kind of 2 chicken thighs each. And I skinned them before the class started this evening. It's really easy skinning a chicken thigh. You literally just need to get sort of a finger underneath the skin and pull it off. And our dog was exceptionally fortunate because they all got sort of fried up and the fat taken out, and they got mixed in with her, or will be mixed in with her food. So our chicken thighs have been skinned. Our first step is we are going to cut up some onions just into rough chunks. So I'm going to halve them and literally just cut them into a few chunks. They don't need to be finely diced at all.
Hi from Vanessa, who's watching now.
Oh, hi Ness, you're watching from Doha.
So the guys at number 10.
So at this stage it's mainly family. And hey, if family doesn't support you, who does? And as you can see, pretty rough and ready. Nothing too, Moroccan cuisine is definitely not fine dining. I'm sure there's some guys out there that have turned it into fine dining, but your sort of everyday stuff is just good old wholesome food. I'm going to move across. I'm going to take a few of my ingredients with me, everything that I'm going to need, and I'm going to move across towards the stove. So, what do we have here? I'm going to need that. I'm going to cut. So when I went shopping yesterday at a little Middle Eastern supermarket, which is in the next town. I'm in a little village, and it's in a place called Beziers, which isn't far from where we live. And I bought a whole lot of preserved lemons for the dish today. Unfortunately, I completely forgot about the fact that I actually have to do double the dish today, because I kind of have to do a little bit of a reveal later on. And I didn't buy enough preserved lemons. Now, I know a few of you got hold of me before tonight and said, what can I do if I don't have preserved lemons? If you don't have preserved lemons, it's not a trade smash. You can use fresh lemon as well, and I'm actually going to use a little bit of fresh lemon in the dish, but you'll end up actually putting it in earlier, hence the fact that I've already cut up my fresh lemon that I've got that I'm going to put in, but my preserved lemons are still there. I'll put those in later. Okay, so do you want to come and move around?
Certainly, my lady.
So I'm going to be cooking this in just a good old-fashioned casserole dish tonight, which will go into the oven. And the first thing we put in, 50 grams of butter. It's quite a lot, which I need to just get the stove on, and we're going to get that melting. And add a little dollop of olive oil to that as well.
We've got Jerry Grayling watching A Little French House.
Oh, hi Jer. Long time. No here. And, Si, do you want a little glass of wine?
Glass of wine time already, why not?
6:30, definitely wine o'clock. So our wine tonight comes from a friend's vineyard. It's a vineyard called Domaine de Sarabande, which is kind of 10 minutes drive away from us, in a village called Lorenz, and this is their pig label. Very cleverly, the reason why it's called pig is their name are Paul and Isla Gordon, so the pig is actually the acronym for their name. It's a Roussin Marsan mix, and it's a lovely light fruity wine, so it's perfect for an apéro, and actually quite a good accompaniment for this dish, because the dish has got quite strong acidic lemony notes, and the wine is not too acidic and will actually be a good complement to it. Si, do you want to go?
Cheers, don't mind if I do.
Cheers,
Cheers, darling. Cheers, everybody. Should we cancel the video?
Yeah, just have an apéro. Okay, the butter's almost melted down, so I'm going to add the onion. We're just going to fry that off for a couple of minutes. Now the spice mix that I'm using tonight is pretty simple. It's a good teaspoon, a generous teaspoon I would say, of coriander, and the same again of powdered ginger. So we're keeping it simple, but again, there's no fixed, like so many of these recipes, there's no one way of doing it. So if you want to add a little bit of cumin to it, if you want to add a little bit of heat to it, traditionally this doesn't tend to be a hot dish, but you can add a few other spices. Generally Moroccan cooking uses coriander, cumin, ginger, there's sometimes a little bit of turmeric, and saffron. And that's the other thing that we will be adding to this dish is saffron. I'm quite lucky. I always get my saffron in when we go through Doha and go to South Africa. My sister-in-law and my brother live in Doha, and I always stop off and buy saffron from the local supermarket. It's brilliant, and an absolute cheap as chips in comparison to what we pay in France. But interestingly enough, they actually do produce saffron there's a saffron farm in a village literally 5 minutes drive away from us in a little place called Nefiers. And I was planning to take people on tours around the farm as part of my food tours. But of course, this summer, all of those things have come to a bit of a grinding halt.
So, hi from your mother, Corey?
Oh, my mother.
Your mother. And
You're networking there.
Sandra's saying hello as well from Montpellier, so we're spreading out across the area.
So Doha, South Africa.
Yeah.
And a bit of France. Okay. I'm going to add the spices to this. And just mix it up. Simon, you got any amusing tales to tell?
Certainly not. Give me a few more schlucks of this wine and anything can happen. Hi from Patricia Miller.
Hello, Patricia. Patricia's in Lawrence. She's actually in the same village that our nice wine has come from.
Ah, yes.
And they've got that beautiful house that you did in the painting holiday last year.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Of course. That was a great location for a painting.
Painted.
Yeah.
They've got a beautiful house that looks out over the chateau in Lawrence, which is very different from our chateau. It's a really old chateau. It's not that ours is a new chateau. It was built in, we've got a little chateau in our village which Simon and them were actually painting yesterday in our painting class. But ours is a slightly nouveau riche chateau. It was built in the late 1800s. There was a bit of a wine boom around the Languedoc after the phylloxera epidemic, where a lot of vines died out, and the Languedoc was actually one of the regions that managed to get the vines up and running the earliest. And as a result, there was a massive wine boom. So you see quite a lot of these sort of 19th century chateaus that are kind of done in a slightly more Loire Valley style, with the typical slated roofs and often some of them have sort of little pointed, what are they called? Sort of towers and turrets and all these sort of things, which is actually quite unlike the older chateaus. The older chateaus here tend to be, some of them have these beautiful ceramic tiled roofs, but others of them are done with sort of terracotta tiles and things like that, which would have been the sort of natural ingredients of the area. Okay,
we've also got...
If you want to come and have a quick look. The onion is just fried off. We don't want it to get to the point where it's brown. And I'm now going to add the garlic. I've got 4 cloves of garlic, which I'm going to press through.
We've got a top chef from South Africa just signed in, a certain Pierre de Vet.
So Mum and Dad are not actually watching on the same phone then?
I'm not sure. It's very suspicious.
It is. They're meant to be in lockdown together. Very suspicious. So again, for me, Moroccan cooking is something that just evokes memories. We've done a few trips to Morocco. One which was just a week long, and we literally did our own thing, but we caught a plane over and stayed in some riads in Marrakesh first of all, and then we caught a bus actually to Essaouira. And Essaouira is a beautiful little town on the coast with these sort of really blue, gorgeous blue little shutters and things like that. So very much sort of blue and white, not dislike a lot of the Spanish places actually. And the second time round, we went over by motorbike. So you can catch a ferry all the way from France to Morocco. It's meant to be about a 36-hour trip. I think it took us closer to something like 42 hours.
Yeah.
Before we even got there, I think the adventure started. We had incredibly stormy weather. We hit a massive storm in the Mediterranean, and it was a roller coaster ride all the way to Spain overnight, where we stopped in Barcelona, and then from there. So I'm literally just pushing all of the chicken thighs in, sort of what would have been the skin side down to start off with, and I'm going to just brown those up slightly.
Question, did you skin the chicken?
Sorry?
Did you skin the chicken?
I skinned the chicken, yes. I find that this dish is better skinned, otherwise it can be quite fatty, and it just doesn't need to be honest. But I have kept, they're not deboned thighs, so I've kept the bones in, because I really find the bones add flavour. And I prefer, some people might wonder whether they can use chicken breast. Personally, I wouldn't. I think they would be way too dry. And at the same time, the thighs are brown meat, so they've just got a little bit more flavour. than the breast would have.
We got a hi from Kevin Ellsworth. Hi Kevin.
Hi,
Tennessee. How's England? Rainy. Martin also says, and Jan here as well. Bad reception though. We've had bad weather today.
No.
You've had your summer already.
Yeah, England's had its summer. I'm now turning the chicken thighs over. They've just browned off slightly, or some more than others.
How long do you leave those for?
Sorry?
How long do you leave those in there for?
Just until they're browned off.
Okay.
Not very long. And I'm now going to start pushing it. Well, first of all, my saffron I mixed with a little bit of boiling water, about a tablespoon or two. So I'm going to add that to the mix. And we are going to just push in the little pieces of lemon.
The dogs, they are getting closer.
She's turning into a right baby in her old age. Not that she's that old. Millie, can you please stop? Sorry.
Wandering
My
cameraman.
hands are dry in the wash. And I'm going to add a little bit of pepper to that. Now, if you're only using fresh lemon, I would say add quite a bit of salt. I mean, not massive, but as much as you like to add to your food. If you're going to use preserved lemon, don't use too much salt, because the preserved lemon and the olives will have salt in them. So between those, you've probably got enough salt in the dish. Okay, I'm going to pop the lid on, and we're just going to put that in the oven. And then we are going to get the rice going.
A shout out to your saffron niece. Niece saffron.
Saffron niece. Hey, saffron, it's a dish for you. I'm using loads and loads of saffron. I just realised I need another onion. So I'm making a pilau style rice with this. It's kind of based on sort of Iranian rice dishes that kind of use the same sort of technique. It's not actually something that we ate in Morocco, but I just personally think it'll be quite a nice accompaniment.
Hi from Jamie Oliver. Looking for some tips.
Now that'd be good. You know you've made it when Jamie Oliver watches you live.
And we've got Cindy Bass coming in from America, ladies and gentlemen. It's gone worldwide again.
Hi, Cindy. See, I'm on this side of the camera for a change. Simon's the one abusing me instead of the other way around.
Steady on.
Teasing me.
Cindy was one of our painters from yesterday. Did a superb job working live during our painting video.
So I'm just cutting up the onion. This one, unlike the onion that went into the tagine, I'm going to do this one a little bit more finely. Making sure I keep my fingers out of the way. The last thing we need is me cutting the front of my finger off live. Wouldn't be a pretty sight. Okay.
Getting compliments coming through about your top.
From who?
From Cindy.
Thank
About
you.
your top. I'm not going to turn the camera around to show mine. Won't have the same results.
Colour. I like a little bit of colour at the moment. I need a little bit of colour in my life. I wish I'd known that we were going into lockdown a little bit earlier, because otherwise I would have bought myself a whole lot of coloured scarves to tie my hair up with. Because I'm sure, like everybody else, I have got serious lockdown hair, which basically means my hair isn't doing anything that it's meant to do. So I'm using a basmati rice for this. Any sort of long grain rice will do. And we are going to be using a little bit more saffron again. Some cumin seeds, some garlic.
Just coming over to my wine.
And this is a mix of 250 mils of, well, about 200 mils of wine and about 100 mils of stock. Just a chicken stock. Very lazy. If I had some homemade chicken stock in the deep freeze, I would have used that. But I don't have, so I've actually used a bit of stock powder. And again, when it comes to cooking, there's a certain level of pragmatism. Okay, so let's get the onions in first. You want to sweat those off. And what do they mean by you want to sweat those off? We basically don't want to brown the onions, we just want to get them to a point where their colour becomes a little bit more translucent. There we go. I'm going to put down on those so that you don't burn them. And I'm just going to put the lid on that. So it's a bit of a strange time for us at the moment, because this weekend we would have started the first of our painting courses. We had a 3-day painting course that we were going to run over the long weekend. And on those painting courses I do a fair amount of the cooking. I don't do everything. We think it's really, really important that people sort of go out and experience eating out in restaurants and stuff in France as well. And again, you know, if we were going to have 2 holidays during June, I can't foresee at this stage that either of those are going to happen, purely because a lot of the facilities are going to be closed. You know, the beaches are still going to be closed, the restaurants are all closed. So a bit like all of you guys, we're kind of living a bit of an unnatural life and a bit of a gulp because our income has disappeared.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, but I think at the same time, you know, adversity sort of becomes sort of the mother of invention. You kind of just have to take life by its lapels and think about new things to do, and hence the fact that we're doing a lot of these lives is just trying to get the word out there and build an audience and, you know, meet new people. So hopefully it works. Spread the word, let people know what we're doing. And yeah, I suppose we also hope we're just bringing a little bit of lightness to people's lives.
Now, say something nice about the wine, because the winemaker is now watching as well.
I like to tell everybody about your wine. We're drinking your Pig White, which we are thoroughly enjoying. I was just saying it's going to be a lovely wine to complement these sort of slightly citrusy flavours of...
And did you say something about possible link-ups in the future?
Well, it's a thought, and I mean, maybe if you guys give me a little bit of feedback, a bit like anybody who knows Saturday Kitchen in the UK, it kind of has a format where they're cooking live and they've got guests and they have a wine expert who talks about, you know, what wine marries well with the food. And I've been thinking of getting local vignerons, local winemakers in and chatting, because there's quite a lot of chatting time in between.
Albeit on screen, huh?
Initially, until the 11th of May, we won't be allowed to have anybody in the house, but before then, potentially having almost a Zoom call, and same as they're doing on TV. And yeah, not an interview, but just a chat, you know, getting them to tell us a little bit more about their wine, what wine would go well with what we're eating, yeah, how they came to be here, how they came to produce wine in the south of France, and just, you know, food and wine go well together. So it's just a way of creating a little bit of a story. So let me know what you think. Is it a good idea or is it a bad idea? As I take a little sip. Okay. So the onion is starting to look a little, tell me once we zoom in. So a little bit more translucent. I'm now going to add the garlic. And in the meantime, some cumin seeds. So this is how I'm giving it a sort of Moroccan touch. So it's about a teaspoon of cumin seeds and 3 cloves of garlic. In regards to the recipe, I will put up a link to my the recipe, which will be on my website, which will have all the full instructions. So if you're not cooking along and you want to go back to this at a later stage, you will be able to grab the recipe from there.
We've also now got a top chef from Manchester lined up, watching. This is Mark Van Boogeren.
Okay, just frying that up, and then I'm going to add the rice into that. And we are just going to fry the rice off. Again, until it becomes slightly translucent. So if you want to come in, you'll notice the rice is quite white at the moment, and after a few minutes it'll go slightly more see-through. So I know we spoke about it last week. I mean, Si and I did a big bike trip to Morocco about 2 years ago. We went over for a month, caught the ferry over, rough ride there, and it kind of became more and more interesting as we went on. We got there first day, it absolutely made our way to Fez. It was meant to be a sort of meandering ride through the countryside of about 4 hours long. But because of the rough passage, we got there about 3 hours late. And the meandering ride through the countryside turned into an absolute torrential downpour. And we, as we slowly made our way across country in rain where you could literally almost not see in front of you, and came limping into Fez, decided to turn around and tell me, I think the gearbox is gone. At that stage, we literally just managed to get off. There was a stretch of motorway that we were going down, and very kindly there was a whole bunch of BMW riders, a whole lot of guys on far newer machines than ours, that kind of kept an eye out for us for a while. But we managed to get to the outskirts of Fez before it all kind of went heads up.
This was day 1. Gearbox failure.
So I've added the saffron, which again got put together in a little bit of water, and I'm now adding the stock and wine mix. And that is just going to be left. I'm going to turn the temperature up on that, and that will take about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, we're going to check on our dish in the oven. So, this is the one I put in a little bit earlier, and this has been cooking for the last hour, just over an hour in fact. So you can see it's looking a little more sort of unctuous, and I'm going to quickly come around here, and I'm going to just cut up my preserved lemons. Now, as I said earlier, if you don't have preserved lemons, it's not a train smash. You can use fresh lemons. It's not quite the same flavour, but it's not bad. Use some lemons, and then at this stage, put the lemons in earlier, but at this stage, add the juice of a lemon to it as well. And I'm going to cut a few up, just a little chunkier. But But you can also make your own preserved lemons quite easily. It literally is a case of just putting them in a jar together with some salt. Have a look online. There are loads of different recipes that will tell you what to do. The only thing is they do have to preserve for about 3 months before they are ready to eat. So there was no way I was going to be preserving lemons, from Monday to now. So we're quite lucky because we've got quite a lot of. It's quite a big Moroccan community down here. There are actually specialist Moroccan stores, and even the supermarkets tend to have quite a lot of these ingredients. Okay, and about 200 grams of green olives. I would say green olives need to be ones that haven't got pips in. If you can buy de-pipped green olives, it definitely is easier than trying to take the pips out yourself. I mean, you can put ones with pips in. The only problem is that your guests are going to be spending quite a large part of time
in hospital. At the dentist. Yeah.
At the dentist. And now's a good time to also just have a little taste. I personally want to add a little bit more pepper to mine. Now, this is definitely a personal thing, is the pepper. The Moroccans don't seem to, I don't know if they don't cook with pepper. The recipes I see have pepper in them. But the one thing I don't see is, or didn't see, was we never had pepper on the tables in Morocco. You always had salt and cumin. Remember that?
No.
Do you not? Simon always says that he finds it absolutely amazing. I will sit there and go, do you remember what we ate at that restaurant like 10 years ago when we were on holiday? And he goes, no. Can you honestly not remember that?
Well, I remember there was no wine on the table most of the time.
The Moroccans actually do make a bit of wine, and up in the bigger cities you can find one. We found far more easily in Marrakesh, didn't we, and Essaouira. We actually struggled in Fez to find many restaurants that serve wine, and we did find a little rooftop bar, didn't we, one night, which was part of a hotel, I think. But yeah, no, alcohol was pretty thin on the ground. But definitely seems to be available in some areas and then not so much in others. Okay, that's going to go back in the oven. Now, anybody want to come over for supper? Because I've now got enough food for 8 people. What I'm going to do with all of it, I don't know. I'm going to be giving away Moroccan tagine.
Got a message come through from Simon Roberts who said he'll come over for supper. That's generous.
Oh, thanks, Si.
How's this looking?
Still needs a little bit of cooking. Now, whatever am I going to talk about? See, now I need a winemaker here. To have a conversation about their wine. Celebrity guests, anybody want to come and join me for a celebrity guest session?
Good idea.
Okay.
So how long is it, what's the sort of timings regarding time in the oven and so on and so forth, or is that all going to be on a...
So the time in the oven altogether, the tagine cooks initially for about an hour. Hour and a quarter, you then take it out, you add your preserved lemon, you add the olives, and then that goes back in for about 15 minutes. So I'm not going to keep you guys here for the whole entire 15 minutes. We will, because we added some lemon before the time, I'll dish it up as soon as the rice is ready. But I fear that I might be losing my audience before the dish actually gets dished up. And I mean, a lot of people are sort of going, what can we put, or possibly saying, what can we serve with it? I mean, what I often do, and it's not typically Moroccan, we saw a lot of carrots in Moroccan, but I tend to do roast carrots, which I roast up with cumin, which makes a really sort of slightly Middle Eastern style dish, and brings a little bit of colour to the plate as well.
That sounds good. And we got a thumbs up for Isla coming over and doing a chat.
Okay, brilliant. You're going to come and get a takeaway as well?
And for some reason, the chef from South Africa, Pierre de Vet, thinks I'm actually already here. Never mind coming around for dinner.
Oh, really?
There we are.
And you haven't got far to travel, have you?
No.
From behind the camera. Okay. That's the liquid in that is cooking up quite quickly. So, I'm just a funny feeling. Let me just take my other chicken out of the oven. I've got a funny feeling. I'm looking at my thing of water and going, I've got a funny feeling I forgot to put the water into my second tagine. I did. I'm going to add a little bit more. I just want to cover.
How much are you supposed to put in?
About 250 mils. So just enough to kind of cover the chicken. I mean, it's not been in that long, and there's the juice from the lemon, so there's no damage is being done. There we go. I must admit, I'm missing the people who are normally in my cooking class. I'll sit and have a little chat with.
Yeah.
It's so France is potentially coming out of, well, not coming out of lockdown, I would say coming out of hard lockdown on May the 11th, but very much on the proviso that the numbers and stuff continue to go down the way they are at the moment. I'm adding just a little bit of extra water to this. I don't think that there's going to be enough to keep it going, so I'm just adding a little bit more. So from the 11th, we're going to be able to, yippee, be able to drive for basically we can't leave our departments, but we can drive up to 100 kilometers away from our house without having sort of like permission slips and the whole sort of thing, which is what we've had to do up to now. And I think quite a few of the kids, mainly frontline workers, children, are potentially going to be allowed to go back to school. But people are still being encouraged to work from home. So it's definitely not, but I think some more of the sort of independent shops are going to be open as well to try and allow them to continue trading. So I'm hoping my material shop will be open and I can get some different colour scarves for my hair. But yeah, hairdressers potentially are going to be open, but I don't know, it's weird. It's a strange one, isn't it? We all, I think, feel, even though things are opening up, do we necessarily want to go and sit in a hairdresser's where somebody else has potentially sort of coughed and spluttered on the area before you, and there are possibly 2 or 3 other people in the place with you? I don't know. Sandra from Orkeregan, my own personal hairdresser, her and her daughter.
They can come round.
They can come
one
round.
at a time.
Just as long as they don't cough and splutter.
So you'll have to get some long scissors to keep a social distance, aren't they?
I can imagine.
Some of those kind of those long garden shears.
It could be.
Hi from Sarah in Cornwall. We've got Melanie Carrs watching, and Pam Eden Dulove is. I can imagine how yummy that smells. It does smell good. I can tell you now.
The kitchen smells quite sort of North African.
I'll soon have my Moroccan music mix on.
Oh yeah. Simon's famous for his music mixes. Whenever I make food from a certain country, it sort of seems to be accompanied by which I don't mind most of the time. It was just that time I did Chinese food and suddenly we had Chinese opera. Bit of an acquired taste. Not necessarily something that you want to listen to as you sort of chowing down in your chicken chow mein.
What an atmosphere, though.
Yeah, nothing quite like it. I'm going to just take the opportunity to move a few things around.
Pan across the hob. This is all quite simple, really, isn't it, tonight?
It is. It's all very simple. I think the thing is what I'm trying to show you guys is that tasty food and food from exotic places is not difficult. You know, it really and truly isn't. And I mean, I've done quite a few cooking courses. I did I've done a Moroccan course. I did a what I called a mixed Mediterranean course, where we kind of moved around the Mediterranean coast. We kind of did a little bit of Spanish, we did a bit of Greek, we did a bit of Albanian, and
that's you giving it. You weren't on the course. You were doing it.
I was doing it. I was leading.
Giving
the
it,
course, yeah. And then I did. No, in fact, my Moroccan wasn't just Moroccan. It was Middle Eastern. So we kind of again moved across the region, and then I've done a Chinese cooking course as well. And I found it really, really interesting. Is you can almost see how the spice route and how the spices that moved along that route sort of influenced the cooking. And you also realise that there's some sort of key ingredients that you can kind of put into anything and it'll taste like a certain region. You know, if you want food to taste Middle Eastern, you put in coriander, you put in ginger, you put in cumin. You want something to taste Chinese, you put in fresh ginger, you put in spring onions, you possibly put in a bit of Chinese 5-spice, some soy sauce and some Shaoxing rice wine and possibly a little bit of rice vinegar. You know, suddenly stuff starts tasting Chinese. With the Greek dishes and the Mediterranean dishes, it tends to be more herb oriented than it is spice. You know, it's oregano, it's thyme, it's rosemary, it's flavors like lemon. You know, and you add those and tomato, and suddenly things start tasting Spanish. But you also see how these, you know, some of the southern Spanish dishes kind of have a Moroccan feel. Some of the Moroccan dishes that are kind of part of the sort of that Spanish colony have that influence, you know, and then it crosses over towards where you start getting further towards the proper Middle East, you know, towards Iran and Turkey. But then those flavors from those areas cross over into Greece and Albania. You know, so it's really interesting. I loved it. It was it's an interesting journey to take. So
I think there's a TV series in it. Painting and cooking, at least around the Mediterranean.
Okay, our rice is ready, and I think it's time for me to dish up and to stop yabbering along. So our first lot of tagine, the one that's been in the oven for ages, is going to come out. Let me, actually, where am I going to plate up? I'll plate up here. Move that out of the way and let's get this onto the surface. There we go. Get that off. And ta-da! Introducing the Moroccan bowl. That came back from with us on our first
Can we move the
journey.
pepper, please?
Sorry?
Can we move the pepper?
Oh, sorry. That came back with us in our first journey. I only had a tiny little cabin bag, but I managed to squeeze it. I had quite a large handbag, and I managed to actually squeeze that into my handbag.
It's a lovely bowl, isn't it? From Essaouira, wasn't it?
It's very typical of all these sort of Moroccan pottery. I mean, again, the pottery differs where you are in Morocco. You know, we definitely noticed further down south, the pottery was a lot plainer. Do you remember? It was just kind of glazed in colours. Whereas around okay, so I'm going to spoon that into the bowl on the one side. What I do need to do, which I should have done while I was standing there yabbering away. Anybody that knows me well knows that I can talk the hind leg off a donkey. Unfortunately, sometimes I get a little distracted. I'm just going to chop up a bit of parsley.
I think I can hear the call to prayer.
That is an evocative sound. Stephen Ness in Doha will be, well, it's probably past sundown, so the call to prayer would have already happened. It's always interesting when we go and visit there. We're not used to it, and the sun tends to rise quite early there, and we get woken by the sound of the call to prayer sort of wafting in through there, through the bedroom window. And let's make it a little bit more circumspect.
This looks tricky.
There we go. So I'm serving this like we're having 4 people over for dinner, but we're not. Who's coming over for dinner when this is all over?
I feel a grand feast coming on, darling.
I'm literally getting
Sandra's coming over. Sandra's on the way.
Sandra on her way. There we go. And lovely garnish of fresh parsley. Morocco in a plate. Or in a platter.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, it's not been a long one, 3/4 of an hour. I did a bit of pre-prep, but probably not much more than sort of 15 minutes. So there you've got a fantastic, fresh, tasty, slightly foreign tasting dish, all done in just about an hour from start to finish. And you guys have joined me for the last 3/4 of it. So cheers, eat well, and see you next week.